Happy Monday. How is everybody? I am certainly glad to be back. I had a great weekend. Very nice, but always, at least for me, it's exciting to get back to it because I feel like we are really getting into like some stuff, right? Like some good stuff and some powerful stuff and stuff that, we've been working on for a while to uncover, unearth, and move forward, all right? So, today's topic, the good human agreement, right, is something I was thinking about a lot yesterday. And it's, kind of where we have come to up to this point. And it just calls out like, okay, like if we look at all different groups being in good care, right? Being taken care of, and that we do not have to necessarily trust in the humans of any other organizations if we have the trust in the power of the universe. If that is where we're placing our trust, right? Because that is a more loving and higher conscious way to go about doing this, right? To not focus on the other, people. Because, as we all know, people and their personalities and opinions and everything else can be difficult. So we don't need to get down in the weeds with them and their ideas and what we're doing. We can kind of look at them and say, okay, we understand that they are on the same mountain as the rest of us. We are all on equal footing. I don't understand them. They probably don't understand me. So what do we do with that? What do we want in terms of that? Well, I think everybody could agree that we could put together a good human agreement that would be so simple in its wording that there would almost be something wrong with you, like if you didn't want to sign it, right? Because it stands for the principles to which we all, say that we belong to and want, right? Like the ability to conduct your life in the manner that is appropriate for you so long as you're not hurting your fellow humans, right? Just kind of, not only do your best, but do your best to support your fellow humans whether you understand them or not. I think there's an agreement there that we could draft that I would like to see, just put in front of as many people as possible and just say, okay, like this is the way forward. The way forward is not a lot of what we've been doing in the past, right? I mean, we can't even get along, one American to the next, it seems like. But what if we drafted an agreement that says, I, whatever your name is, agree to always see the humanity in my fellow humans, whether I understand them or not. So long as they are not belonging to, funding, or giving any type of support to organizations that seek to harm your fellow humans, so long as you're not harming other humans, I commit to lifting you up and supporting you and seeing your humanity always, right? That I will do my best part to make sure that you get what you need in order to fulfill your assignment this lifetime go round. I mean, who wouldn't want to sign something like that that would say, I choose to uplift my fellow humans, whether I understand you or not. So long as you're not harming others, I will always lift you up, right? Because again, like who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to be lifted up and supported by their fellow humans, right? That means, I have to lift up and support, well, all people not harming their fellow humans. So, I guess a lot of the religious organizations are out, but having an agreement like that would force their hand. Would say, okay, this is the good human agreement, one human to another, that specifically calls out you may not harm your fellow humans or seek to marginalize them in any way, because the agreement is about loving and lifting each other up and not participating in organizations that seek to harm others, right? So having an agreement that is that like simple, right? That is that to the core of what we are about as humans, especially one human to another. If we had an agreement that called that out, again, I think that would force their hand in many ways if an agreement like that became popular. Because people of the Mormon faith or the Catholic faith would not be able to sign it. It would call them out. It would call them out in the way that they participate in institutionalized bigotry. A thing is a thing, right? So that was just kind of like the idea that I had yesterday, as far as like, oh, okay, now that we've arrived at this place and understanding that I don't understand a lot of faith communities, and I'm sure if they ever watched me doing this nonsense, they certainly wouldn't get me. So we're all on equal footing. So what do we do with that, right? We all need to come to an agreement along those lines that I will actively lift you up as my fellow human, that I will actively seek to make your life better, and I will actively seek to love you and support whatever it is that you need this go round. I think it's really kind of simple and brilliant, in order to draft an agreement like that. So I'm just going to stick a pin in that idea. Should, this, whatever this is, should Team Dale ever become, like a movement, or, I should have a following, like that would be something I'd be very, very interested in creating and pursuing, that there is just a good human agreement, that good people don't belong to openly bigoted organizations, that good people seek to lift up and support your fellow humans, whether you understand them or not. And I love that idea. It could be so simple, right? And it would just, clarify to everybody, like, this is what a good human does, by the way. Because I think in a way we have replaced, wholeness and goodness of that level with righteousnness. Right? That's why I think often faith communities are so dangerous, because they throw that word around and they use that like it's a shiny beacon of knowledge, right? When what is righteousness, right? What am I like when I speak from a righteous place? Is that loving? Being righteous? Is that loving? It serves the ego. Righteousness serves the ego, so therefore it does not seek to bring people together, heal, and love, right? Righteousness is of the mind, it is not of the heart, right? So, anyhow, that was just my thoughts on that. But I wanted to share a different story with you, because we had shaman school again this weekend. Once again, I was a problem. But not in a bad way this time. I mean, not in a way that I could control. Not in a way that I could try and be somebody different than I am. So, the story goes like this. The class that we were doing this past weekend was on, removing unwanted, kind of energetic garbage and stuff like that. What the heck is it called? I'm just looking at my book really quickly. This is my shaman learning book. So attachments, right? It was on clearing attachments and intrusions of a vibrational sort. So let's say that you go to, a church or a bookshop or whatever else that might have just kind of, energy of sorts that somehow gets attached to you, right? So the class was just a very basic, high-level, generic removing of these types of attachments, these energetic attachments. These are attachments without a soul, by the way. Like, we're not talking like exorcism. We're talking like, a little bit of vibrational energy that somehow just gets stuck to you and, through the course of the week, the month, the year, whatever. If you don't kind of like clean those off, right, it just kind of gums up the system a little bit. So that's what we were doing, is we were removing those types of attachments. And the more the teacher was going on and explaining about this, the more I was getting triggered. So to the point where I kind of had to stop, because they were getting ready to do the removal of the attachments in kind of a ceremonial way. And it brought up some of my stuff, like my PTSD stuff. I was just getting very, very triggered by a specific incident that happened to me when I was a kid. And so anyways, let me just tell you that story, and that'll kind of help clarify and bring you up to speed what was getting triggered in here. So when I was 10, I dove into a swimming pool that was much more shallow than I thought it was. And as a consequence, I smashed my face into the bottom of the pool and broke my tooth. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I could have broken my neck, but I just broke my tooth, and, that was fine, whatever. I dove in and I found the little chipped off tooth. And so I had that part just in case they could I didn't know. I was 10, right? So anyhow, instead of going to the dentist, my Baptist minister father thought that it would be awesome if we did like a ceremony to heal me and to get the tooth to reattach itself. That was my dad's idea. And so he asked me if that would be okay if he did that, which I appreciated. But I didn't know necessarily what I was signing up for, right? I mean, how could I? Anyhow, so the ceremony they ended up doing was in the front of the entire church, right? The whole congregation was there. And it's actually a story that I tell in my book. I mean, anyhow. So my dad called me up to sit me on this chair that was in the middle of the stage up the front of the church. And so I sat there, and I didn't know why I was crying. The whole thing made me nervous, right, I guess. And so my dad asked me to hold that little chip of a tooth on the broken part so that it could magically heal itself together like teeth do. But blessed be, this was the level of faith that my father had with Christianity, right? And so in a way, I'm like, okay, Dad, you are all in. I mean, all in. But the ceremony itself was super, super, super terrifying to me, because I didn't know that they were going to be doing what they call a laying of hands ceremony on me. And so I'm sitting in this chair, and there's a couple people who are almost holding me in place, I couldn't move, kind of thing, which I thought was weird, which was making my kind of internal angst in the moment become even more heightened, right? And so now I'm crying for other reasons other than I'm just uncomfortable and nervous and not sure what's going on. And of course, like, my mind is just like swirling a million miles an hour, just like not understanding like what's going on, why, are they doing this? So anyways, I'm holding my tooth together like this, and God, like, the rest of the congregation started like coming up, one kind of like as the thing was going on, and they're doing their holy hallelujahs, and they're like, really kind of getting the place rocking, right? And all the people start coming to the front of the church and doing the laying of the hands ceremony on me, right? And I just remember like not wanting them to touch me, like do not, like, and I was just, like kind of pinned down in this chair. And the more that people came up to like lay their hands, and the louder that the whole thing got, like, it just became like just more and more terrifying to me, because especially as the people were kind of like piling on top of me, I just remember how hot the air got just from their body heat, and how like the whole, like, I couldn't even see, I couldn't breathe, I was like, they were doing like full on practically dog pile on top of me, to the point where I couldn't breathe, to the point where I was legitimately freaking out, like legitimately scared that I was going to suffocate or die. And like, what air that I could get was like just rank with body odor and just hot and putrid and like suffocating. And there were like so many bodies like on top of me that it was like just dark, and I didn't know, and I just remember crying and crying and crying and almost like screaming, trying to like but they couldn't hear me. They couldn't hear me because they were all on top of me, and they were all yelling and screaming and doing their Jesus whatever. And it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. When they finally started to get off of me, I remember I was just like drenched in sweat, and I was like only semi-conscious because I like couldn't even breathe like for a while, and there was no air, and I don't know if you've ever had people touching you in that way, that where you don't want them touching you. Like, that was my first experience with that. That was my first experience in being and having my body used by others like that. In the book, I refer to it as a similar type of sensation as it was when I was raped. It was similar in its vibration, in how it lived in me, just not wanting to be touched by and not wanting to participate in what's going on, but you have no choice in the matter, right? Because it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me when they were all laying their hands on me. I wanted nothing to do with that. I wanted nothing to do with that. And it was once again, my family's faith being forced upon me in a way that I wanted nothing to do with. So that was not awesome. That was terrifying. That was, I still have stuff. I still have stuff around that, which obviously came to light in class when they were like, okay, now we're gonna do just the removal of, these attachments and whatever else. Just get with your partner. It's gonna be real quick. One person's gonna, scan your body, see if there's any attachments, and then ask their spirit animal to remove them, and you're done. Like everybody's in this like light and easy kind of approach to this work. And I'm finding myself in a state where I can't breathe, where somebody's going to do something to me like that in a, religious ceremony or whatever you want to call it. And I was surprised at just how like totally unsafe I was feeling in class. And so I'm like, I can't do this. There's like, don't touch me. Don't. Right? And so I had to stop, and the whole class actually had to come to a stop while they kind of like figured out an alternative solution for me, because I couldn't continue with what they had planned for the class. So anyways, I was once again a problem. But I have to give myself a little grace around that, because like I like to think through having written my books and done like a lifetime of work on this stuff that I can like take out like my trauma, like this giant UFO of bullshit, and deal with it in one foul swoop, and like, okay, there we go, done with that. Phew. Boy, am I ready to start working on something different. But apparently, that's not the way trauma works, right? Because it wants to, take the UFO of bullshit and like mince itself into 1.5 million individual different pieces, and then shoot them all at me at the same time. And say, here, these are the things that happened to you, now deal with them, all at the same time, right? That's kind of what happened to me when I know, it's like a lot. I'm sorry. I'm sure you can, like, my life actually hasn't been that bad. Like, I know, like, there's a lot of stuff, but my life is pretty good. It's just, I've been through some stuff. And that's what we're doing in here, is unpacking stuff, right? So when we tend to focus on that, right, rather than, oh, this is what my life was like when I was, a backup dancer for Celine Dion for all these years, or this is what my life was like on Broadway, or this is what, you know what I mean? Like, we could go there and we could celebrate the wins, but like, that's not where a lot of the learning is, at least not, what we're doing now and where we are in the work. We might eventually get to celebrating those things and all that stuff. But, you got to clean house first. You got to clean house. And that's what we're in here doing and working on, right? So, I got through the ceremony, and they put me with a teacher assistant that I really enjoy and like working with and trust. So, she was able to do it. But I had to, like, even for the whole rest of the class, like, I was closed off. I was like, I don't want anything to do with these people, because I just get into that, like, don't touch me, like, fear, which often feels bigger than the power that I have to counter it, right? So, anyhow, that was interesting. Like, and again, to relive, some of that was a surprise, because again, God, I've been working on this stuff for so long, and it just continues to, be a little bit of a yoke around my neck, and I don't want that. I mean, look at how hard I've been in here working to try and find new thought patterns and solutions for myself to not be weighed down by the past, right? But like we've talked about before, when it comes to special situations and PTSD and, other things like that, it lives in your body differently. It lives in your body differently than just an experience that was a snapshot of time that dissipates and disappears with time. Trauma doesn't do that. Trauma doesn't dissipate and disappear with time, right? It's always radioactive inside you. That's why people who struggle with PTSD go from 0 to 60, right? Go from just being normal to being totally triggered and emotionally out of balance so quickly, right? Because they're reliving the situation every single time. It doesn't, like I said, dissipate and disappear with time. It's always alive in you. So that was a bit of a surprise, but again, let's stay focused. Let's keep going where we're going, because where we're going doesn't live in the past and requires us to, every single day, make a commitment to today, right? To leave the past in the past, right? To make the commitment to today. Because, like we were talking about before, you can't live in both trust in the universe and fear simultaneously. You have to make a choice. Those two things are polar opposites. You would probably explode if you tried to live in both of them at the same time, right? And we've seen what my thoughts and life are like when I operate from a place of fear, right? So let's get super curious and let's continue to look for solutions of what life looks like when we operate from a different place, when we make a different choice, right? Because, again, I don't want to be held down by this stuff, right? I'm sure all of your stuff, you don't want to be held down by it either, right? We want to leave that stuff in the past. It's just how? What are the rules, right? And so I've just gotten really clear that, yep, I'm going to have that stuff that's just going to pop up in my life. That's going to make me incapable of participating in certain situations like that class and be okay. That's just going to happen. But I have other tools, and that's not where I'm going to live or dwell on it, right? It's like when I tried to join all these dystonia support groups. Everyone in there is so identified as a sick person. I'm like, okay, I might not have some challenges, but bitch, I am still kicking it. I am still doing my life. I might have a few challenges, but that doesn't define me. My successes define me. And I'm not going to hang out with you people who just want to, boo-hoo and talk about how you're a sick person and focus on what you can't do. I'm like, get out of my way. Watch what I can do. Watch what I can do, okay? Because that's where I'm focused on. That's where I'm going. I got big stuff going on in my life. Yeah, sure. Got a neurological movement disorder that has, in the last week since I've gone back to work, been far more problematic. I recognize that. That was a fear going into it, that when I use my mind and I am in a corporate or stress environment like that, just the way real estate is, my stress around that gets turned into movement disorder. Right? I move weird. I mean, as you've seen in, that one video that I did where I actually showed you what it looks like when I'm not 100%. That's my life. That's a repercussion. But again, it doesn't define me and it barely slows me down. Right? I mean, as long as I can get my work done before 2 o'clock while I'm still fresh and whatever, anything after 2 p.m. is anybody's call. I'm not always awesome. But I mean, I can get more work done, I think, in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon than most people do, like, all week, right? Because I mean, like, we're doing this. We are doing this, right? The whole books, like everything, that we got teed up here in terms of, we want Team Dale to be doing in this world, the change that we want to see and affect in this world, right? That's still game on. That's still game on. Nothing is going to slow me down or detract my, intention from achieving those accomplishments. Nothing, right? It's too important. And so when we talk about big goals like that, what do we tether it to ensure that it happens? What do we tether it to, right? Where am I going? It's the why am I going there that keeps us on track. And I'm very clear, as I've talked about so many times before, my why am I doing this? Why do I do this? Is very clear. That there has to be people like me standing up and fighting for the young queer kids. They deserve better. They deserve better. Right? So I'm really clear on why I'm doing this, and I will not be slowed down. Things are happening. Things are happening really big right now. Okay? Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak with a woman who works for the LA Times. She's on the LA Times literary board. She does reviews for books. She's in charge of their festival of books that they do every summer. Oh my gosh, this woman is so impressive. Oh my gosh, like every time she opened her mouth, she was saying something like, oh, and by the way, I'm getting my doctorate in, this type of, poetry or whatever, and whatever else. And meanwhile, she's planning and doing like 8 major events for the LA Times, like all over the place. Like she is busy. She is booked. Yet she took the time to speak with me yesterday. I'm really impressed by people like that. Because a lot of my immediate friends and family, I'm like, will you please just read my book? They're like, nah. Right? But here's this woman who's in that world who said that she not only wants to, but will read my book first week of May when she's done a lot of these events that she's super busy with right now. That changes things. She seemed to be wanting to help me, legitimately. And we hit it off, and I was being, silly and stupid and fun. I can. We were talking about, doing interviews together and things like this. And now she's her new passion is working with screenwriters. And she was like, oh, yeah. She was like, have you ever thought about making your, book into a movie? Because I have some people that I'm sure it would. And I was just my mind's exploding. I'm just oh my God, really? Because, the way that I channel information is I open up essentially the movie screen of my mind and then I just take notes, right? That's the way. So I've already seen it. I've already seen the film. It's great. But the fact that she'd be willing to read my book and write a review meant the world to me. So that was awesome. And then today I hired this woman in New York who's going to help me launch the book, and I got her proposal, and it's happening. And my book isn't even published. It probably will be published now, in a few months, depending on what this lady that I just hired wants to do with it, because she wants to do a full scrub of not only, my webpage, but the cover art to the inside layout to all the legal stuff it's a lot. So now we got all that to do, but I have to do it. And I know that doing those things in the proper order is what leads you to success, right? Because I've had a lot of other friends who have written books, and they write the book and then they just send it off to the self-publishing publishing house and hit print, and then they get 20 copies in the mail, but does it ever go anywhere, right? And so I've really been working on the pre-launch stuff to make sure that is got as much going for it as possible. Oh, the woman in New York, she said that my book was important. She was like, you have a very important book here. I was like, oh my gosh. Like when I hear those kind of like things, it's like, this might actually be happening. This might actually be happening. So I'm really excited that, things like that are starting to fall into place a little bit. I feel super, super, super blessed for that. And I'm so thankful for people like Professor Derek Curran or others who are often here with me, who introduce me to people like that are important and that can help, shepherd my work along, because I do feel it's important as well. I do feel that it's important that we're in here understanding the power of our own minds and the choices that we have, right? Because it's time to change the vibration of the planet, to do better, not only for ourselves, but for our fellow humans, whether we understand them or not, right? So that we have a good human agreement, one person to another, that says, so long as you are not harming others, I will lift you up, whether I understand you or not. It's that simple, right? And so I'm willing to do that for anyone. Get on board. Like, let's do that. Let's have that be our agreement, right? That if you're not harming others, I will lift you up, whether I understand you or not. So that's where we are today. But I've just been enjoying a lighter way of existing in the world, which, isn't ruled by complaint. Oh, man. I think if we truly understood the power of complaint, we would understand it's too costly. It's too costly to our lives, right? And I don't want to live there. I do not want to live there anymore, right? So moving forward, we're going to be looking at lighting ourselves up, right? Lightening our load, going on vacation, and living in a way that not only improves us, but improves everyone around us. That's what we're in here doing. So thank you for today. I will see you on Wednesday, and go out and have an awesome day. Talk to you soon. Bye.